Prashanth Neel did it. He created a world where he wanted to tell this story and brought Prabhas back in his form. How did he do that? Let's talk about it. Hello guys, I'm Nona Prince and this is my review and analysis of Salaar and how Prashanth Neel proved yet again that he's a master at creating elevations and giving us a high. Now I know that everyone will not appreciate this film, just like KGF franchise. It's not for everyone because the creator has a distinct style, and if it didn't work in KGF for you, it will not work here also. And if you're just a fan of a mass film that every 5 minutes you want a high, you want your hero to do something cool, and the story and plot is secondary for you, this is not that film too. This is a film that you have to see for what it is. You have to surrender yourself to what the director wants to show. And if you try to bring your own notion onto the film, how you think it should have been, you will be disappointed when those things don't happen. And Prashanth Neel mentioned it again and again that this film is first of all a Telugu movie. That's how he approached this film. That's the kind of mass he has grown up watching, and that's what he wanted to show in this. Where the narrative will revolve around the star, it will feel like as if he's supernatural. But the only thing is that he backed this with a lot of story and drama. In comparison to KGF, this film is way over the top. KGF is in a way about an underdog rising to power and is full of charisma. He is literally a brand, and because of that you accept when he does something extraordinary. But here, because it's a Telugu film, you know that the star of the film can do anything, and the audience is always accepting of that. And the way that is blended with the fantasy world, that's the selling point of the film. When I see the film, it's not perfect, but the way it achieves what it set out to do, I'm a fan of that. I'm an admirer of that. Prashanth Neel is a fresh voice in the mass cinema circuit. He always brings something new to this old genre. And I like that nowadays, even in mass films, we're getting a subgenre under it. There are different variations of mass films around. You have a Pathan and you have a Jawan. You have a Vikram and a Leo. You have a KGF and a Pushpa. And all are very different than each other. Now, big thing about a Prashanth Neel movie is that the non-linear storytelling. And you'll see that again in Salaar. And combine that with his very choppy and non-linear editing at moments, which is criticized a lot, but he's still at it because he believes in that style. You know, just thinking about it, it should not work. The film should be a mess. You should not understand anything, but he makes it work. The KGF films had that style and they worked really well for the audiences. So if you're watching this film and complaining about the same thing, it makes no sense because you knew that's the editing he goes for. You cannot call it an error anymore. It's a creative choice. You can dislike it. Maybe it doesn't work for you, but the filmmaker is doing it intentionally. So the editing cannot be termed as a mistake. And I think a big reason he does this is that he doesn't want any dull moment in his film. He wants the energy in every scene. If the scene doesn't have an energy, he'll intercut it with different scenes and you'll kind of get a montage all happening at the same time. And that's why in his films he does this setup and build up, setup and build up. In the KGF films, we don't know what is KGF. We don't know who's Rocky Bhai. So within the film, he creates a myth by doing that every character is talking about it. They are creating a buzz about it. It's a mystery. And you get hooked to it. That what are these characters talking about? I want to know now. It's creating a curiosity within the film. And he uses the same technique in Salaar on building up this character without showing anything. It's always like, you know what he can do, what he has done, and some quick flashes, and then we don't see anything. And again, he'll tease us, and we feel now it will show, and now it will come, now it will come, it doesn't. And I think that's where the fine line is. That if you do that a lot many times, it may get annoying. That you're just building up, but not paying off. But the thing is, the more you make the audience wait, the more you delay it, the more anticipation you'll create. And when that payoff comes, it hits you so hard. It feels worth all that wait. But it can go otherwise also because you have to match the anticipation you have created. But Prashanth Neel delivers every time. Now this time around, he added more things up his sleeve because he wanted to create a political drama also, creating a civil war in this kingdom. And he builds it up really well. It is so well constructed that you don't lose track of it because there are so many characters. It's like Bahubali but set in present era with guns and a lot of characters who are not so great. They are full on evil. And the most fascinating part is that he keeps your attention. He holds it. You cannot look away. You'll miss something. There's so much detail in every frame, something or the other going, there's no stopping. And that can only work when technically a film is superior, which this film is. Bhuvan Gowda is a cinematographer. He gave us the wonderful frames of KGF, and now with Salaar, he took it 10 times ahead. Each and every frame of this film is rich of texture. The sets and the production value are amazing. I couldn't tell apart the physical set and the VFX extension. The tone of the film is so dark and gritty, and to achieve that you need to have a really good lighting. The film is not just epic in terms of scale but also visually. The detailing, the use of color. You can tell from the number of visuals we see. They have shot almost like 15 to 20 hours of footage, and from that we are getting a 3-hour film. And when those visuals combine with the context, with the narrative, that's where the magic begins. You know, the way Khansaar is established, this big empire that no one knows about, it's hidden, and we keep getting rapid shots of it throughout the film, that we don't forget this place, the enormity of this place. Again and again we see it and feel that presence of it. We see how this place works, we see the history of it, and again the way all that is explained is very well done. You basically see Prashanth Neel's fantasy coming alive on the screen, and witnessing that gives you a thrill, because we don't get something like this normally in Indian cinema. He somewhat tried that with KGF, and before that was Bahubali, which created a different world altogether. Now the core of the narrative are these two friends, and that's how the film begins. And that was a worry for me. Will they give enough time to establish this friendship? And they did justice to it, because before getting Khansar, before getting into the politics and drama, we just get a scene between the friends, these two friends, and that beautifully sets up both the characters. You understand what we are dealing with. It clearly defines them. I did notice one thing, that there are very few dialogues of both these characters. Like when go and count, there are very few dialogues. And still by the end of the film, I understand these two characters. I love the way Prithviraj showed restraint in his performance. He's basically playing the son of a king, and he has his own aspirations, but he's very calm when things are going against him. But inside he is also getting hurt, and he gets a scene breaking down, talking about it to his friend. And who is his friend? Deva, played by Prabhas, who's back in form because he has got such good material. His character is a combination of madness and a soft heart. And in the interviews, I heard how Prabhas can just stand in a frame and he doesn't do anything and it will be great. And you see that, him just walking or just standing or doing something. His screen presence says everything. He doesn't need to do anything. But that can backfire also, which we have seen in his previous films which have not worked. But here, when you have a skilled director, he knows how to use that. He knows how to complement his face, his body, visually or musically. What to add, where to use his persona, in what scenes. There's one sequence with Prabhas in the film with just him looking in a mirror. I'll not spoil it. It's just one sequence and I fell in love with it. I don't remember any mainstream film depicting that scene ever, especially in a violent action film. I absolutely loved it. I want like a frame, a wallpaper of it. Like I want to talk about that scene, but we'll do that later. There are so many moments in the film where Prashanth Neel's vision just shines. There's so much visual storytelling, so much symbolism, like using a shadow to show someone's arrival, creating a meaning out of folding of arms, the visual references, the use of color in this monotonous world to show the emergence of the hero. Usually films build up to give you a high, but Prashanth Neel wants everything to be a high. So every moment he's building up to give you a high. And it doesn't have to be just action or a cool moment. It can be a big revelation also. The performance of the whole cast was a mix for me. With some characters, they tried to do something different, little over the top, and it was not working that well. Now with the Hindi dub, they gave that accent of a Haryanvi to many people, which sometimes worked and sometimes didn't. Thankfully, there were subtitles. Now for me, the weakest thing in the film is the action of the film. And not, the set designs. Not why the action and where the action is happening. That is well done. But what is happening in the action? The stunts, the choreography. It wasn't fresh and different. It was too simple and repetitive. Unlike in KGF, which I would say doesn't have that much action in it. But still, every action had its own style to it. And the way Yash performed those had his charisma in it built in. But here I felt more like, Prabhas was just standing and just walking and just slashing people one by one. And most action is just like that. There will be some unique movements he'll do, but then those people are just flying off. And in most action sequences, it just went on for too long. And when that happens, it starts to become boring. Unless, again, when action is either driven by emotions or it's part of a build up to something big. But the moment when it's not that engaging. Now, one of my favorite fight sequence is the one with emotions, and it's easily one of the most epic scenes I have seen. At a packed theater, people were cheering and clapping, but this sequence, even I clapped and cheered. And through that, in that scene and over the film, there were so many good one-liners, which are so well done. because they are not coming from the actor who's playing the character. They are coming from the character because something had happened earlier in the film. It comes back, and when that line is delivered, it's hit the mark so well. So with part 2, which they have not shot yet, I would say please do a better work at designing the choreography, that it doesn't feel repetitive every time they're just slashing people. Now the film is adult rated, and Prashanth Neel said, how he was okay to cut some sequence out, but there were some key moments which Censor Board didn't want, but he thought if he removes them, the impact will go away. And I think that was a good decision, because the film really doesn't have a lot of violent moments. There's just 2-3 places where there's some violent scene which may be not good for all the audiences, but those scenes are like very impactful. And if you remove those, the impact will go away. Now, I do have a complaint with the film, which actually Prashanth Neel already accepted, that visually Salaar is not very distinguishable from KGF. They look like as if they are part of the same universe. And when there were so many rumors that KGF's connected, Yash will show up and all that, the producers and the makers also didn't, deny that rumor at that point itself. It just became a big thing. And just before the film, in the interviews, they said, no, it has no connection. Because, sitting in the theater, I heard people around me talking, "Arey, where's Yash? He didn't show up, post-credit scene will be there, it will connect to KGF and all of that." So people are going with that expectation, and when it will not be meant, they will feel underwhelmed. So I hope moving forward they give Salaar a unique visual identity. It is different, I would say it's more darker tone, more grittier than KGF, but still maybe they can do something more. See, the style of the storytelling is not KGF-like. It's Prashanth Neel-like, because he has created it. And if through that style he's able to tell the story, make sense out of it, it will stand out because it's very different. Now this is part 1, there will be part 2. So basically the film ends with a cliffhanger. And I would say throughout the film, I could predict the story. And I think I will be able to predict what's going to happen in part 2 also. But that was same with Bahubali too. Why did Katappa kill Bahubali became such a big thing? But it was very obvious if you watch the film what would have happened. But it's about experiencing this world. It's about experiencing how those events will unfold. Now at the end, the title for part 2 is revealed. And honestly, I don't think it's a great name, because it would be a nightmare to market the film like that. So I hope they, make a change. I know there will be a lot of talk about, this story had so much potential, but Prashanth Neel just made a massive movie with Prabhas. But I think that's not the point. For me, how I look at it is that he had Prabhas as such a big star. He could have just made a easy peasy massy film. As simple as that. Even Adipurush made money. But no, he didn't do that. He didn't even try to create another KGF, because that film really worked well. Humongous business, just try to replicate it. No, he didn't do it. Prashanth Neel got a star, but still valued the narrative. Because we don't see Prabhas until 15 minutes into the film. We don't see him fight almost 30-35 minutes into the film, because the narrative happens first, then the star will come. And I appreciate that. I want more of that, where the star is present in the service of the story, not the other way around. And that to me is very satisfying. Now, what's the other big release of the week? Donkey That's Satisfying. Check it out here. What I thought about the film and what went wrong. Do let me know what you think in the comments below. If you want a live spoiler discussion on the film, let me know in the comments too. And I will see you next time.